everyone. Welcome back. Today, we're diving into something I think we can all relate to, that desire to kind of like improve ourselves, level up our lives. But sometimes the thought of making big changes can be like totally overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
So we start looking for those shortcuts, those like tiny tweet, massive results kind of solutions. And you know what? Maybe those solutions actually exist. In this deep dive, we're taking inspiration from a conversation between two friends, Julia and Mark, who discover the surprising power of small changes. They share their stories with each other, and luckily for us, we get to eavesdrop on their conversation. Ever feel like you're stuck on autopilot, especially in the morning?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Well, that's exactly where Mark's story begins.
It's fascinating how often our brains kind of equate change with this monumental effort. It's like this invisible barrier that keeps us stuck. But sometimes the most profound transformations begin with really subtle shifts in our daily routines. So true. And Mark's story is a perfect example of that. Picture this. He's feeling totally swamped by his mornings, that chaotic dash out the door. Sound familiar?
For sure.
He's craving a sense of control, a way to start his day with intention. And here's where it gets interesting. His solution wasn't some radical life overhaul. It was simply waking up 30 minutes earlier.
We see this principle echoed in a lot of the research on productivity and habit formation. Even a small window of intentional time in the morning before the day runs away from you can have this like domino effect on your energy and focus.
It's like setting the tone for the entire day, right?
Precisely.
So what did Mark do with this extra half hour? He decided to try something he'd read about. High-intensity interval training, just 15 minutes, followed by journaling about his goals for the day. He found this combination really energized him physically and mentally.
It's amazing how those small acts of self-care can be so powerful. Exercise, especially in the morning, has been shown to boost not just your energy levels, but also your cognitive function. And pairing that with journaling, with that intentional focus on goals and priorities, creates a really powerful 1-2 punch for a productive day.
And that's exactly what Mark found. More energy, sharper focus, and that feeling of control he'd been missing. But we're just getting started with the power of tiny tweaks. Let's move on to Julia's story. I think a lot of us will relate to this one. Imagine this. You're struggling to fall asleep, feeling the drain of too much screen time. I know I've been there.
It's more than just a feeling, though. There's actual science behind that screen time drain. Specifically, the blue light emitted from our devices messes with our melatonin production. And melatonin, as you might know, is crucial for regulating our sleep-wake cycle.
Right, it's like our internal sleep timer, and those glowing screens are messing with its settings.
Exactly. And when our sleep suffers, everything suffers. Our mood, our focus, even our immune system kind of takes a hit.
It's amazing how much hinges on a good night's sleep. So what was Julia's solution? Did she go full-on digital detox?
Well, not quite. She started with a simple change. No screens for an hour before bed.
Okay, that sounds doable, but I bet it wasn't easy at first. I can practically hear the phantom phone vibrations already.
Oh, absolutely. It's a real phenomenon. See, our brains are wired to seek novelty and connection and those notifications. They offer a quick hit of dopamine, that feel-good neurotransmitter. So putting the phone down can feel like resisting a very tempting treat.
No wonder it's so hard. But wait, I thought dopamine was a good thing. Isn't that what helps us stay motivated?
It is. But like anything, too much of a good thing can throw things out of balance. When we get those constant dopamine hits from things like notifications and scrolling, it can actually diminish our ability to derive pleasure from other activities. The things that contribute to long-term well-being, like spending time with loved ones or pursuing meaningful goals.
Wow, that's fascinating. So in a way, Julia's decision to limit her screen time was about more than just better sleep. It was also about reclaiming her ability to find joy and satisfaction in other areas of her life.
Exactly. And it's a great example of how small changes can have those ripple effects, impacting areas we might not initially expect.
So true. But let's go back to Julia's story for a sec. She didn't replace scrolling with staring at the ceiling, right? What did she do with that screen-free hour?
She replaced her phone with a book. It was a conscious choice to engage her mind in a different way, one that promoted relaxation and better sleep.
Now, Julia admitted that initially it was tough. Putting the phone down felt almost like wrong. Anyone else feel that way? But she stuck with it, focusing on the why behind the change. She reminded herself that better sleep would lead to more energy, a brighter mood, and a greater sense of control over her day. And you know what? It worked.
It's amazing how powerful that shift in perspective can be, isn't it? When we consciously connect with the deeper reasons behind our desired change, It strengthens our resolve and helps us push past those initial hurdles.
It's like having a mantra for those moments of weakness. I'm choosing better sleep. I'm choosing a calmer mind. So we have Mark's morning routine and Julia's evening tech detox, both seemingly small changes. But here's where things get really interesting. They both started noticing these unexpected positive consequences in other areas of their lives.
This is where we see the true power of habit formation. Small changes, consistently applied, can create a cascade of positive effects, impacting areas we might not even anticipate.
For example, Mark noticed that he was more present and engaged with his family and friends.
Which makes perfect sense. When we prioritize our own well-being, we often show up as better versions of ourselves in our relationships. We have more to give, emotionally and mentally.
And Julia, she also noticed she was more patient and understanding both at work and in her personal life.
Improved sleep works wonders for emotional regulation. When we're well-rested, we're less reactive, more level-headed, and better equipped to handle stress. It's like those small changes unlock these hidden reserves of patience and resilience they didn't even know they had.
It's like a chain reaction of awesome. But let's be real, change can be tough. I know I've definitely struggled with forming new habits and sticking with them. That initial burst of motivation is great, but then, life happens.
You've hit on a very important point. Change is inherently disruptive, even when it's positive. Our brains are wired to seek familiarity and comfort.
So how do we outsmart those comfy, routine-loving brains of ours? Like, what are the secrets to making those changes stick?
Well, one powerful strategy is to constantly reconnect with your why. Remind yourself of the reasons behind the change you're making. What are you ultimately hoping to achieve? How will your life be different, better, more fulfilling?
So like a personal pep talk. In Mark's case, it was that feeling of control in the morning, starting his day on his terms. And for Julia, it was that deep desire for better sleep, leading to more energy and a brighter outlook. They had to hold on to those whys when things got tough.
Exactly. And here's another helpful tip. Break down those larger goals into smaller, more manageable steps. Instead of aiming for like a complete morning routine overhaul, start with just adding a 15-minute earlier wake-up time.
It's like those Couch to 5K programs. You don't just wake up one day and run a marathon, right? You start small and gradually build up your stamina.
Precisely. And the same principle applies to habit change in any area of life. Instead of going completely screen-free in the evening, maybe begin with just 1 hour before bed. It's about building momentum and confidence with those small wins.
And I'm a big believer in celebrating those small victories along the way. It's like giving yourself mini rewards for staying committed to the changes you want to see. Did you know, and this is kind of embarrassing, I used to put a gold star on my calendar every day I went for a run.
I love that. It sounds like it worked. There's real power in acknowledging and celebrating our progress, no matter how small. It reinforces the positive behavior and makes the journey more enjoyable. Remember, self-improvement isn't about perfection. It's about progress, and it's about finding what works for you.
So true. And, thinking back to Mark and Julia's stories, it's amazing how these seemingly small shifts in their routines rippled out into other areas of their lives. Mark found himself more present with his loved ones, and Julia discovered a new wellspring of patience.
It's a beautiful illustration of how interconnected our lives really are. When we make positive changes in one area, even seemingly small ones, it often creates this ripple effect, influencing other aspects of our well-being.
It's like that saying, how we do anything is how we do everything. So, to wrap things up for today's deep dive, what have we learned from Mark and Julia's experiences and from the science behind habit change? Small changes, consistently applied, can lead to remarkably big results. It's about identifying your why, breaking down those goals, and celebrating those small victories along the way. And remember, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. It's about finding what works best for you, for your life, and for your goals.
What one small change are you feeling inspired to make today? What's that one step, no matter how small, that you can take to move closer to the life you envision for yourself?
That's something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the power of small changes. Until next time.